We have been dying to demo this. Whoever built our house was kind of lazy. We already had our first surprise. Made zero progress. Had it cracked into two pieces. Hi everyone, this is Lauren from the LKS Address and welcome back to our YouTube channel. I am standing in our first floor powder bathroom and we are about to start this project. We are going to be doing a full demo of this powder bathroom and renovating it from top to bottom with new tile. We are painting the walls, we're redoing the window, we're gonna install a brand new vanity, new mirror, new light, and new toilet, and of course we're gonna decorate the whole space. This is one of our most frequently used bathrooms, so Cam and I have been patiently waiting until the day that we could renovate this bathroom because it's also the ugliest in our house. So it's gonna be very gratifying to see this come together. So let's get started, and you know what that means. It is demo day. Before we talk about demo, let's quickly talk about the design plan for the bathroom. Cam and I are obsessed with 1800s and Victorian style architecture, and this bathroom is inspired by a previous trip we took to Saratoga Springs, New York. We stumbled upon a Victorian home that had the most gorgeous checkerboard marble sidewalk, and I knew someday we needed to incorporate something like that into our home. So at our powder bathroom, we're going to be incorporating checkerboard marble tile with a complementary blue color palette, as always with a mix of old and new elements, and we're hoping that this is our Victorian bathroom dream come true when we're finished. This bathroom is original to our 1990s home, the toilet, the vanity, the tile, and you can imagine that we have been dying to demo this, especially because we use it very frequently. Demo day is so exciting to start removing the things that you don't really enjoy in your home and getting to see a blank slate that you can start to build back together. Doing projects in a bathroom or kitchen is always intimidating for us when it comes to things that have plumbing and water, and you never know what you're gonna find. And when we took out the vanity, we already had our first surprise. All right, check-in number one on bathroom demo. We got the vanity fully removed and we got the toilet out. Both were actually very easy, which was good. We're off to our first problem, no surprise there, but we wanted to do an open bottom vanity here. Whoever built our house was kind of lazy because we've got a drain pipe, conduit running, and we've also got some water lines. So I don't know what we're gonna do there. I'm kind of like, just leave it, just tile up as far as we can. And will anyone really look under the vanity? But Cam feels like we should kind of just do a traditional vanity similar to what we had. That's all the way to the floor to conceal all of that behind. But we will noodle on that and see what we can come up with. But otherwise, going pretty good. So now we're gonna start trying to take up the tile. And upstairs, the tile is cracking off the subfloor, so I'm kind of hopeful that this tile will be pretty easy to take up, but we'll see how it goes once we get started. Removing the existing tile is probably our least favorite part of demo. It takes a lot more effort than you might think, and we got pretty lucky because this tile was actually pretty easy to remove along with the mortar. It took a couple hours, but after a few hours of hard work, we were able to get most of it up with a little bit of leftover mortar on the subfloor. Another bathroom check-in. We got the tile removed. It actually wasn't too bad, but as you can see, we have a bunch of leftover mortar. So this is an additional layer on top of our house subfloor. So what we think we're gonna do next is try to just remove these layers. We're gonna have to build up the floor anyways, because on the first floor, we laid our hardwood over the existing. So we're gonna have more of a gap to build up. We want an even flush transition. So next up, let's try to see how hard it is to remove the subfloor so that we can have basically a blank slate to start laying new subfloor for our new marble tile. Once we finished ripping up that extra layer of subfloor, demo on the bathroom was done and we were ready to move on to a quick project tackling our existing wood window. At the front of our house, we have vinyl windows and we've been slowly one by one transforming them by painting them black. We have a YouTube video on the full process and we'll leave that link in the description below if you're interested. And in other exciting news, we've finalized our choice for the bathroom tile. We are sourcing our tile from Castelli Marble and this is the 4x4 tumbled marble tile in a checkerboard in Riviera Gray and Colorado Calicut. And now that we have our tile in hand, that means we need to go shopping for our tiling supplies. Floor & Decor is our go-to for tiling supplies. They typically have everything we need, and we did a lot of research since we've never used marble tile before. And fortunately for us, our tile manufacturer had recommendations for the mortar, grout, and sealer, and we followed their recommendations exactly. So it took out a lot of the guessing on which products to use. We're back in the bathroom today and hoping to make some much needed forward progress. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, it's Memorial Day weekend. Cam and I just got back from a wedding in Florida for one of our friends last night, and this is quite honestly the last thing that I want to do today. However, we demoed this bathroom about a month ago and we've made zero progress. I mean, I guess you could kind of say that we're procrastinating working on the tile. The tile floor is gonna be the hardest part and it requires a bunch of prep to do so. So let's talk about where we're getting started on the prep before we move forward. In the bathroom, we're gonna be laying marble tile. Cam and I have never laid marble tile before. We've laid tile a couple times in some of our bathrooms in our last condo and been doing a lot of research on the proper subfloor needed for marble. Marble is a little bit different than a standard porcelain or ceramic tile. Apparently marble tile needs 2 subfloors. It doesn't like OSB. It needs to be more of like a plywood sheathing. So right now we have OSB on our floor, and because we have to already add a second layer because it needs 2 subfloors, we're gonna be adding plywood on top to start. But we've got another thing going on since we installed our new wood floor in the rest of our house over our existing wood floor. We've got a bit of a height differential. So let me turn you around and show you the exact condition that we're working through. As I mentioned, you can see that we laid our new wood floor over our existing wood floor. This only happens on the first floor. So we've got quite of a height difference to make up. If you can see, here is the marble tile, and we've got a couple things that we're gonna be adding to the subfloor to get us so that this tile hopefully ends up flush with our wood floor. First, we're gonna be adding the first layer of 3/4 inch plywood on top of this. You might have seen the orange membrane that goes on floors. That's the uncoupling membrane. We're gonna be adding that from Schluter. And hopefully once the tile gets installed, my maths, and we're nice and flush. And now that brings us out into the garage where we've picked up our 3/4 inch plywood sheathing, and we're gonna start cutting that, getting it screwed into the floor so we can start adding our uncoupling membrane next. Hopefully we can make some good progress today, and Cam and I are hoping that we have time at the end of the day to go reward ourselves with some sushi down in the city. So hopefully it's a productive day and we can have a little bit of hard work and pleasure. We're cutting the new 3/4 inch subfloor using our table saw, and for the cuts at the toilet and the vent, we're using our jigsaw. In general, this process was pretty quick because we got lucky and our powder room is a perfect square. It's hopefully gonna be a really exciting day in the bathroom today. Can you do a new clip? I'm gonna delete that one. It's hopefully gonna be a really exciting day in the bathroom today. As you can see, we got the subfloor installed. Cam screwed all of the plywood sheathing in over the week off camera, so that's fully done. And now it's time to start installing our Schluter uncoupling membrane. We're gonna be using the Schluter orange stuff. This is an uncoupling membrane and you use it when you lay tile over wood, which is what we're doing. So we got the peel and stick version, so we can basically just peel off the backing and stick it directly to the floor so you don't have to do a mortar to adhere this. This is a newer product, so this is gonna make it a lot easier. Once we get this fully installed, then we're gonna start dry laying our tile, and we'll share more on the dry laying process once we finish installing the Schluter uncoupling membrane. If you're gonna be doing a tiling project, we highly recommend the Schluter Ditra Peel and Stick. This product was so easy to use and so easy to install. And one tip is, if you're worried about the adhesion to your subfloor, they also do offer a primer, which ensures better adhesion. But because we put down a new subfloor, we felt confident that the Peel and Stick would not fail us. To install the Schluter Ditra, you simply just peel off the backing and then stick it to the floor. You can either go in with a roller to roll over for adhesion, but we just chose to stomp all over it and walk all over it, which was actually very fun. Making really good progress today. We got the Schluter Ditra uncoupling membrane installed. This is the peel and stick version. It was so easy, highly recommend. And now it's the exciting part of the project where we finally get to see something visual in here that's not just like construction prep related. We're gonna be dry laying our marble tile. If you have a natural stone tile like marble, it's typically recommended that you dry lay it because there's a lot of color and pattern variation. So you wanna make sure you're being strategic about those differences and that you end up with an even cohesive look. So we're going to start dry laying. Once we dry lay, then we can figure out what pieces we need to cut. We'll probably stop for the day then, and then the next day pick up our tile saw and start cutting all of the pieces that need to be cut. So let's just start with the full tiles today, but I'm really excited to see how our marble tile floor is gonna come to life and how it transforms the room, hopefully. As I briefly mentioned, there's a couple reasons why we really like to dry layer tile, especially as a DIYer and an inexperienced tile installer. The first reason being you can confirm that you have enough tile on hand, which is good because you don't want to run out mid-project. Like we said, it also allows us to pre-cut any edges or corner tiles so that the install goes faster and smoother once you have that mortar mixed. Since our tile also has natural variation because it's marble, dry laying it allows us to evenly distribute any of the color or pattern for a more balanced look. You can also double check your grout lines, spacing, and make sure you're happy with your grout size before committing. And most importantly, it helps us to align the layout and center the pattern in the space the way we want it. We made such good progress today. We got everything dry fit, all of the full-size pieces, and we figured out our threshold situation here too. We had to cut back our wood floor a little bit, but tomorrow we're going to rent the tile saw and start working on all of these partial cuts. Hopefully get that all done, and then next weekend we will lay this tile floor. It's looking beautiful, and I can't wait to see how it looks with all the extra pieces and potentially grouted next weekend. It's so exciting, and it's finally good to see some tangible progress in our bathroom. Once we were ready to make all of our cuts, we rented a tile saw from Home Depot. This is the smallest one, and it was actually only $20 for 4 hours, so much better than buying a tile saw, unless you're planning on doing a lot of tiling projects, but honestly, I hope we're not, because tiling is really hard work. And then we got all of our tiles cut and finished out the dry lay. All right, you saw that we picked up the tile saw from Home Depot today. Also, it was crazy efficient doing the dry lay yesterday and then cutting all of the cuts today only. We did the cuts in about an hour and a half, so it was great. We've got 2 more to do around the toilet flange, which I'm using a Dremel to just grind away so that we can get the radius, but our Dremel's dead, so I will finish those. But in general, it went really smooth today and we are really excited. So next weekend, we will be fully setting the tile with mortar and hopefully sealing and then grouting shortly thereafter. And then we were ready to undo our dry lay tile and prep for tile install. So I took all of the tile out of the room. I did 2 stacks for each row, labeled them A and B so that I knew how the tile would go back together on tile install day. It's tiling day, and I have to say that I am dreading this a lot less than I would have originally anticipated. I'm actually looking forward to seeing the tile go down. You guys saw last night we took out all of the tile that we dry laid and we set it in piles that are labeled, but it's good to work as efficient as possible because the mortar dries quickly. So I think we're also going to be mixing the mortar in small batches. We haven't used this mortar before because we're using the Schluter all-set mortar that's made for the Schluter Ditra. So we will see how that goes, but I think in general we're looking forward to today getting this behind us, and we're not feeling very stressed. So I hope that's not foreshadowing for underestimating this project later, but no better time than now. Mixing up the Schluter all-set mortar was much more of a process than I would have imagined, so if you use this product, I highly recommend reading the directions. And honestly, the hardest part is figuring out the ratios if you're not using the full bag. We weren't really sure of the correct consistency, and you can Google all you want and you think you have the right consistency, but I don't think until you start tiling, you can really get a feel for it without being either a tiling professional or very experienced in tile. So that's my one precautionary tale, is spend some extra time to figure out that your mortar is the correct consistency. Might be too runny. My lines are like unforming. See how they're slurring together? I think it's too runny, but I'll do this little section and then maybe we'll stop. I mean, it seems like it's grabbing it, but I don't know, it's hard to tell. I'm not a professional tiler. Once I got tiling, I realized that our first batch of mortar was too runny and the trowel lines were bleeding together, but fortunately we were working in really small batches and this improved as time went by and it dried. So on our second batch, we made sure to make it thicker and learn from our mistakes. We just finished up our first batch of mortar. We ended up doing a quarter bag of mortar, which got us probably almost a third of the way through the room. We made really good progress. This is one of those tasks that's so stressful at first, like setting the first row and the first couple tiles. But once you get into it, you get in a rhythm, and then we started to divide and conquer. Cam started to lay the mortar on the floor, and then I just laid the tiles once we were out of the corner and had enough room to work, and that made it go a lot faster. So after lunch, we're gonna mix up our second batch of mortar and finish tiling the rest of the room, hopefully today. Also, you guys know that we did the dry fit and everything fit nice, but once we got to this corner, the tiles are actually too tight, so we are not going to end up laying this corner today. I bet you can already tell, and I think it's very visually noticeable, that this batch of mortar is a lot thicker and our trowel lines look a lot better. And at this point, we divided and conquered. Like I said, Cam was laying the mortar and I was laying the tile, and it went a lot faster since we had those initial couple rows set and we could just get boogieing. In general, as we got through the room, I got a lot more comfortable with installing the tile. It had been a few years since I installed tile, and I feel like I learned a lot from this experience. One of the things I would have done differently is I would have used the self-leveling tile spacers. We were just using the traditional grout spacers, but our tiles are not perfectly level. I am extremely critical, and I wish I would have used the self-leveling one. So if you're didn't do a tile leveling project, I would recommend not skipping that step. And depending on your tile size, you also might need to back butter the tile. For 4x4 tiles, people said you could do it either way, but from most of what I read, it wasn't really an issue on a small tile, so we chose not to back butter our tiles for this install. And lastly, it's important to clean up any thinset on the tile as you go. So I am just spot cleaning as I go so that we don't end up with too much thinset on the tile and thinset poking out through the grout lines that will later affect installing the grout. We're wrapping up for the day and we made really good progress. I would have hoped to finish the whole bathroom, but unfortunately our dry lay tiles on this side are just a hair too big. So we're gonna trim those, and the same thing happened over here. So if you are going to dry lay, I would leave a little bit of a buffer, but we'd rather have it perfect than try to jam them in. The only good news is that the threshold worked out literally perfectly, aside from the fact that it cracked into 2 pieces when I picked it up to install it. So, but the spacing is beautiful and the math that direction worked out great, which honestly is the most important because we wanted to start with the threshold and then a full tile. So now that's good. We'll cut the rest of the pieces tomorrow and get them installed, and then we'll start sealing and grouting, but it looks so good. One last thing that's always a must for us, and especially for this project, is an air purifier. These are our favorite air purifiers. We have one for upstairs and downstairs, and we will basically move it to the room we have a project in. We started laying the mortar and it instantly gave me a headache. It's very stinky, a lot stinkier than I would have thought it would have been, and brought in the air purifier and it gets rid of any fumes really fast and makes projects so much safer from an air quality perspective. So I highly recommend that. We'll leave it linked in our description below. All right, a quick update. This morning, we took out all of the spacers, which were actually way harder to take out than we thought. We had to use pliers. And then we went to Home Depot and rented the tile saw again, and we just finished cutting all of the pieces at the perimeter that we needed to cut. Our Schluter all set is currently being mixed, and we're going to lay the final row of tiles, which is really exciting. And to help us do that, we picked up a little baby trowel. This is so cute, to help us get in this single row of tiles. It'll make it a lot easier than trying to use the big trowel. So let's wrap up this bathroom and be done with the tiling phase. I don't think I've mentioned yet that we're going to be using a special floor vent. We wanted a floor vent that was more cohesive with the tile and blended in. So we're going to be using this Fitz Aria Light frame floor vent. They come in unframed as well, but we wanted to keep it a little easy for us. And essentially you just will be tiling the floor vent so that it blends into the floor really nicely. All right, you guys know that we finished laying the tile in the bathroom, and we just got home from work, and we're gonna continue working on prepping the tile for sealer, and we're doing a couple things. Mainly, number one is cleaning off any excess mortar. We don't wanna seal the mortar into the tile, so I'm basically on my hands and knees scrubbing each tile one by one with water to remove excess mortar and just clean them off. And then number two, let me flip the camera around and show you. The other thing we're doing is some of our spacers broke off in the tiles, unfortunately, like here, and we have to dig these out and kind of remove any high spots of mortar, and that has been awful. So we've been kind of tag teaming this and going around the room and making sure that we've gotten all of these spacers that are stuck in the tile out So that's task number 2. And once we've got this all done throughout the room, then we will hopefully seal a day before we grout so it has time to cure and dry. For this, we're going to be using this high performance penetrating sealer. This was recommended by the marble company as a compatible sealer, so that made it really easy to decide. So we're gonna brush this on and we're gonna be pretty precise to make sure that we're not sealing the edges of each tile, because I read that can kind of hurt the adhesion for the grout, and see how long this takes us. Sealing before you grout with natural stone and marble tile is extremely important because grout can stain the tile. We want to maintain the look as is, so we're going in with 1 coat of sealer before we grout. It is time to grout. We are so excited to see the grout go on because I think the grout really transforms the look of the tile. We're going with a slightly off-white warm grout. We showed you that when we picked it out at Floor & Decor. And most exciting about tonight is this is Cam's gig. I usually lay the tile while Cam presses in the grout. It requires some pressure. I've got a bum arm, so I try not to do that. And then I'm the cleaner wiper, which makes it really easy for me. So most of the stress tonight is going to be on Cam, but he's grouted plenty of times, so I think it'll be okay. And we're just excited to see the progress and finish up the tile floor. So let's get grouting. One tip for grouting is we like to always go with pre-mixed grout. That way we don't have to worry about the consistency. It's really nice that they sell it both pre-mixed and not mixed. However, it is more expensive and a little bit more wasteful if you don't use the whole package in your application, but we find it so much easier and it makes the grouting process less stressful. A couple other tips for grouting are for marble and natural stone, you're supposed to use unsanded grout because sanded grout can scratch the surface since marble is a lot softer and more porous. So always use unsanded grout. And this might kind of seem like a given, but follow the directions on the grout package. We did not used to know that the grout is supposed to set for 10 to 15 minutes before you wash it away. So we used to wash it away immediately. And I know a lot of people will tend to wait a little bit longer and then end up with very hard to remove grout or grout haze. So just follow the instructions on the package as closely as possible. And once our grout fully cured for a couple days, it was time to go back in with the sealer once more. We actually did 2 final coats of sealer to seal the tile and the grout to ensure that our marble stays as is, but it is looking beautiful. So with that, let us show you our marble floor reveal. And with that, we're gonna wrap up the video here. We hope you enjoyed part 1 of our powder bathroom makeover. We're so happy with how the tile came out, and it's honestly our Victorian dreams come true. And we can't wait to see how the rest of the room comes together to coordinate with the tile. So we've got part 2 coming soon where we're going to paint the walls. We're going to install a vanity and do a quick little vanity hack by upgrading it. We're gonna install a toilet and finish off decorating the room. So if you like this video, please subscribe to our channel, thumbs up the video, and we'll see you next time.